Welcome back, scholars. Today we're going to finish up part 2 of our story, A Sudden Slice of Summer. Yesterday we used this story to help us make inferences. Remember, an inference is when you take what you read plus what you know to make a great guess about the text. As we read our story yesterday, we learned about our main character, Susanna. And Susanna really does not like cold, snowy Montreal, Canada. We learned that there is a snowstorm when she talks about a party at the beginning, how that was a big snowstorm. And we learned that she misses Florida, where she and her family went on vacation 2 winters ago, because in Florida it is sunny and warm all year. So we learned that what she wants is to be somewhere warm because her problem is that it is cold. Now, where we left off on a cliffhanger. Remember, we're on page 16 in our story, if you forgot. We left off at a cliffhanger when she pressed her face up against the window because she saw something green in her blank white backyard. And she pressed her face up against the kitchen window because she was curious. Today we're going to finish our story. That is paragraphs 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. As we're reading this today, we're going to read, and at the end, you're going to have a small part that you are going to read. And remember, just like with MVP, I'll whisper read it while we're going, so that way if you're super stuck, you can still hear. You can also always ask somebody in your family to help because we are still growing as readers. After all, this is only our 4th shared reading ever in 3rd grade. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my page. I'm on page 17. You're on page 17. We are all on page 17. And we are over here, I'm going to number it, in paragraph 5. And here's what it's going to say to me. Let's read together. There, in the corner of the yard closest to the sliding back door, the snow had melted away. In its place, a small tree with low-hanging fruit was growing. Susanna immediately ran out to it. Elsewhere, the snowy flakes continued to swirl, but not a single one landed on this bright patch of ground, which was covered in sand. The sun beamed down on Susanna, so hard, in fact, that she was hot. Sweating hot. Half buried by her feet were a plastic shovel and pail. She couldn't believe it. A small slice of the tropical holiday she had been missing had landed right behind her house. She ran inside for her bathing suit. I'm going to stop here because as I'm reading here, I'm thinking about how Susanna is feeling. So there's something really important here about what she's feeling. I see her actions because actions can also connect to how you feel. You're not going to cry unless you're feeling a certain emotion. You're not going to jump up and down unless you're feeling a certain emotion. So here I see that Susanna immediately ran out to it. That means that she is running out to the spot in the yard where there's no snow, where it's looking sunny and beautiful and exciting. So she ran out to it. That's something important that she does. I also see that she ran inside for her bathing suit. If she wasn't running around super excited, well, I think I figured out how she's feeling. She's immediately running somewhere. She's running inside for her bathing suit. And we know from earlier in the text that she does not like the cold and she really wants to be back in warm and sunny Florida. So I want to think, how does she feel? Let's make that inference. I have my text evidence. Remember, inference is what you read plus what you know to make that good guess about the text. I found some text evidence that she's running because she's just so excited. There is my what I know, that you run if you are excited. Now, you might also run if it's gym class or if it's raining and you want to get into your car, into your house without getting wet. But a lot of times, if you're running to go do something, it's because you're feeling excited. So here is my inference. I'm going to think that Susanna is feeling excited about her patch of summer. So I know that you can write Susanna if you want, but we got a teeny tiny amount of space. She is just fine. So she is excited for her patch of summer. This is super important here because I'm making that inference. I took what I read, my text evidence, that she's immediately running inside for her bathing suit. I'm taking what I know, that you oftentimes will run if you are excited, and I made my inference that I think Susanna is excited for her patch of summer. You know how this works. Go ahead and pause if you need to catch up with your writing. And we will continue in 3. Again, pause if you're not ready. And 2. And 1. And let's keep learning. We're looking at paragraph 6 now. I'm going to put a little 6 up there. I'll still read this paragraph. You're welcome to start reading with me, but if you don't want to, you can still listen. That is just fine. For the next few hours, while Grandma lay dozing, Susanna sprawled out on her own little beach. At first, she could not stop smiling. She giddily stretched out her limbs and moved them back and forth, making a snow angel. No, a sand angel. She read a bit of a book. She picked a few oranges and unpeeled them one by one. She dug holes and then filled them in again. After that, she didn't quite know what to do. Apparently, the pleasures of the warm sand beach were a lot less fun when there was no one around to share them with. Susanna would have woken her grandmother, but she remembered that Grandma didn't much care for the sun. She had spent the family's entire Florida vacation under both an umbrella and a huge brimmed hat. Besides, the sunny space wasn't big enough for 2. Ooh, I'm going to pause here because Susanna thinks some really exciting things about her beach, but I think she starts to notice something. I'm learning all these awesome things. Like at first, she could not stop smiling. And you smile when your heart is feeling full and whole and when you're just feeling so many positive, wonderful emotions. I'm going to think that right here she's feeling super duper happy because she's got her slice of summer. Whoop, whoop. We already figured out that she was excited for it. But then she notices something really important. She started getting bored because apparently the pleasures or the good thoughts of the warm sand beach were a lot less fun when there was no one around to share them with. So I learned something really important here. What is Susanna thinking of her beach, of her slice of summer? I think her feelings are starting to change. What do you think? Now that's what I'm thinking. That's my good guess about the text, but I have to prove it with text evidence plus what I know. So this is what I read, that at first she couldn't stop smiling. She was so pumped. She was like, yes, I got my sunshine, life is good. But then she realized that it's not as much fun when there's nobody around. And I know that being with the people you love makes something way more fun. So I know that, and that's what I'm going to add as my know. So being with people you love is way more fun than being alone. So now I think that Susanna's starting to realize something. I mean, she said she wanted to bring out her grandmother, but Grandma doesn't like the sunshine. So we're learning that Susanna, that she realizes that she misses her family. This is huge because she is changing. Characters can change in the text, and we're finding this out because we are making those inferences. We're looking for text evidence plus what we know to make a good guess about the text. Our author doesn't tell us Susanna misses her family. We realize this on our own by finding proof in the text and taking what we know to make that inference. You know the drill. You can go ahead and pause if you're not ready to continue. But I'm ready to continue now in 3 and 2 and 1. And now I'm going to start reading again at paragraph 7. At this point, I would love if you were reading along with me. You know I'm not there to check, but I also know that you're going to show integrity and do the right thing. By late afternoon, Susanna wasn't feeling very well. Her mother hadn't been around to lather her in suntan lotion, and her skin had turned a very dark shade of pink. She had eaten so many sickly sweet oranges that she now had a stomach ache. She had gotten some sand in her eye and had to blink furiously to get it out. The sun was strong and unrelenting. She glanced over to the other side of the yard. She was reluctant to admit it, even to herself, but the snow looked sort of refreshing. She imagined racing her siblings to the bottom of that frosted mountain. Perhaps skiing with her family wouldn't have been so terrible. She was flushed and bored, but most of all, she missed them. Ooh, I think Susanna's learning something here. She was so excited for summer, but is she still excited for summer now? I want you to pause for a second and see if you can find some text evidence that proves to us something that Susanna's learning. I think she's learning that things aren't so bad if you have your family. Because when she doesn't have her family, she's not very happy. Over here, she wasn't feeling well. Mom's not there to put suntan lotion. The oranges are now sickly sweet. She's got a bellyache, sands in her eye. The sun is unrelenting. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw these little brackets. That's what I call it, where it's almost as if you were to put a box around all that text. And over here, I found out that she is unhappy. Susanna is feeling unhappy because her excitement isn't so strong anymore because she misses her family. I made that inference because when I see in all of that text, I'm not seeing positive words anymore. And if you're not describing something in a positive way, then that means you're unhappy. There is another inference I made. I also want to think what she learns. I'm going to move my paper again, so I hope you have that written in. If you don't, go ahead and pause. But now I see what Susanna's learning. Right here, she's imagining racing her siblings to the bottom of that frosted mountain. And perhaps skiing with her family wouldn't have been so terrible because she missed them. If you miss somebody, that means you want them around. And all these things that she thought were so bad, the mountain, and thought it was going to be terrible, I'm taking what I know, that if something's terrible, but you have somebody there that loves you and that cares about you and makes you feel good, it's not going to be so terrible anymore. So right here, here's my inference. What does that mean for me? That the weather for Susanna isn't so bad. That's bad. It's kind of got chopped off. It looks bad, and it is the word bad. But the weather isn't so bad if you have your family. Family, friends, and people you love can make everything better even when it's terrible. And that is what Susanna's learning. One more time, our author didn't say that. We made that inference, taking what we read plus what we know to make a good guess all about the text. As always, pause if you're not ready. But I'm ready to go in 3 and 2 and 1. And I am now at paragraph 8. One more time, I want you reading too. It's not just me doing all the hard work. After all, it is shared reading. We share this responsibility. Paragraph 8, let's read together. She trudged inside, showered the sweat and the sand off of her body, and then joined her grandma, who had finally awoken at the table. My dear, however did you manage to get that awful sunburn? Her grandmother wailed. Susanna just shrugged. She wasn't very hungry, but she managed to pack in some forkfuls of spaghetti and 3 meatballs. Before bed, she crept over to the back door and peered out. The sand, the tree, the bucket, all were gone. Susanna began to think that she had imagined it. She wasn't that disappointed. Her brother and sister would be back in the morning, and she badly wanted to play with them, even if it meant being chilly. Ooh. I think Susanna's wants are starting to change. I know that key words for making inferences are things where it says that somebody wishes something or wants something. And I see that key word where I can make an inference. It tells me here that her brother and sister would be back in the morning, and she badly wanted to play with them. Why does she want to play with them? Earlier in the story, she missed that warm, sunny Florida. Does she still miss warm, sunny Florida? No, she misses her family. If she wants to play with them, the inference that I can make, taking what I read, that her brother and sister are going to be back and she wants to play with them, and what I know, if someone's gone and you want to play with them, that means that they're missing in your life. And so I'm making my inference. She wants to play with them. I'm just going to put my equals for my inference because remember she is Susanna. You can write Susanna. I'm not going to stop you, but I don't want to write it. These are notes. Notes can be short. That she misses her family and her, I'm going to put a comma because it's a separate thought, and her wants change. If her wants change, then that means that she changes too. One more time, you know you can pause. I'm going to be ready to go again in 3 and 2 and 1. And let's continue the rest of our story. We're almost on home stretch, scholars. So proud of your hard work. This is our last paragraph. It starts over here. I'm going to put a little 9. And then I'm going to put a little arrow because it continues on the back. It finishes up on page 18. So let's go ahead. And this one I want you to try to read by yourself, but you know I will whisper read. So you can turn up that volume a little bit so you can hear me whisper read with you, or you could read it by yourself, or you could read it with a family member. I'll track as I'm going the same way I hope you are tracking. The car pulled into the driveway. Susanna was up with a start, and she charged downstairs. She welcomed both of her parents home with hugs and gave one to her grandmother too, who was preparing to leave. Then, as her mother began to ready breakfast, she pulled on her snowsuit and joined her siblings in the back. They were sculpting animals, a caterpillar with snowy lumps for a body, a fish with a three-dimensional fin, and they were surprised to see her there. She dropped to her knees without explanation and began to work. Her hat was pulled low over her ears. Her mittens were lined with wool, and suddenly her sister's hand was over hers, helping to smooth out the fish's curved tail. She could wait for summer. She was warm enough. Awesome. If you're still reading, go ahead and pause. But I'm going to get ready to go in 3 and 2 and 1. And I want to think now about the ending of this story. We know that Susanna changed quite a bit. Her wants changed and she changed. We saw that she was so excited for Mom and Dad, and she was so excited to see her siblings. But then, instead of staying in the house where it was warm, she decided to jump out into the cold, even though she hated the cold. And here I see 2 parts that are making me wonder, and I want to make an inference about why our author would say this. Our author tells us that Susanna could wait for summer because she was warm enough. I'm going to put a box around this because I think it is that important. What on earth does it mean when it says that she is warm enough? Now, I'm wondering, are they talking about warm in terms of like if you're cold or if you're hot? And it sounds like she's bundled up, so she shouldn't be too cold outside. But are they talking about how she's feeling on the outside or how she's feeling on the inside? I think it's how she's feeling on the inside. So I'm going to make an inference about why I think she's feeling warm on the inside. Our text evidence says she's warm enough. And I know that if you feel warm in your heart, if you feel warm on the inside, then that usually means that you're feeling pretty happy. So what I'm going to say is my text evidence is she's warm enough. What I know is that warm on the inside means you are happy. So what is my inference? What can I make a guess about from what I read plus what I know? My inference here is that family keeps us happy even in the cold. Excellent work, scholars. We worked so hard making these inferences, taking what we read plus what we know to make a good guess about the story by finding text evidence, taking what we know from our lives and from who we are and what we've experienced, so we can make a good guess about what the author means but does not say. I am so proud of your hard work. I cannot wait to see you continue to grow as scholars and show me all these amazing things you did, all the notes you took, all the hard work you put into growing. You are awesome. You are such hard workers. You're going to kick butt in reading. I love it. So until next time, let's keep reading. Let's keep growing. Let's keep sharing this responsibility so we can share in the learning. So proud of you, scholars. Bye.